People that come here, certainly that look at an eagle, say they'll never forget what they've seen and what's going on here.
The eagles have been here for years and years, and everybody locally knows it. They care about the eagles.
Well, this is really an interesting place because it's the only population of desert nesting bald eagles.
This is bald eagle country, the Arizona desert. About 25 pairs of bald eagles make Arizona their permanent home, nesting in either rugged cliffs or huge trees. These majestic birds, our national symbol, seek out the remote areas of Arizona's river drainages and lakes to live. Bald eagles are an endangered species in the United States. Relatively few, perhaps 2,000 pairs, are known to breed in the lower 48 states. Small, isolated populations can be found in Florida, but the desert nesting bald eagles in Arizona are special. Robert Mester works for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in Phoenix and is the coordinator of the Nest Watch program.
This is not a subspecies, just a unique, isolated population that exists only here in Arizona in our Sonoran Desert. And at this point, we only know of approximately 25 breeding areas. It's a very, very small population that exists in a very harsh environment. Probably one of the most unique adaptations these bald eagles have made to existing in the desert is a behavioral one. What they've done is they've shifted their breeding season forward in the year. So they're actually nesting during the winter and fledging in late spring in order to avoid the extreme hot temperatures of the summer that the chicks wouldn't be able to survive. What's happening in the north is that they're coming to winter in the desert in order to avoid the extreme winter temperatures that, of course, that they couldn't survive, and then migrating back up north and breeding during the summertime. And I think if there's any one unique thing about these bald eagles that you can point to, it's that behavioral adaptation to desert survival. The reason why we have to have a Nest Watch program here in Arizona is because that these eagles are found nesting primarily along the Salt and Verde rivers. These two lower water drainages are basically what are left of our flowing rivers here in Arizona. So there's a great amount of pressure by the public along these two drainages, primarily for recreation and development, neither of which are compatible with successfully breeding bald eagles. I think that these eagles are here utilizing our desert rivers because these rivers have fish, and fish make up 80% of their diet. Secondly, there's suitable nesting substrate along these rivers, cliffs and trees. And in addition to that, I think there's a relative amount of isolation, which of course is necessary in order to put these other two components together and make them usable for a breeding bald eagle. Having the Nest Watch program in effect and having these teams of nest watchers at all the active nest sites every season probably contributes to 20% of the production each year on the average. This year alone, the nest watchers were responsible for placing 4 chicks that either fell or fledged prematurely out of the nest back into the nest. They might have made it on their own, but chances are they wouldn't have.
The Arizona Bald Eagle Nest Watch program began in 1978 as a volunteer effort supported by Larry Forbes of the Tonto National Forest. Today, the Nest Watch program places about a dozen teams of paid nest watchers in the field each season to monitor, study, and protect these birds. The Nest Watch program, though currently coordinated by Robert Mesta, is actually run by a committee. The Southwestern Bald Eagle Management Committee is made up of federal, state, and local agencies, all of which have individual jurisdictions over the eagles and the lands which they occupy. Terry Johnson, chairman of the committee, explains how and why this works.
The Southwestern Bald Eagle Management Committee has really two functions. One is to try and hold together the various agencies that play a role in bald eagle management and to keep them talking to each other and working with each other towards a common goal, the conservation of the bald eagle. It's really a very simple task when you look at it outside of the arena of wildlife management, but it's an area in which the efforts have been stymied by a great deal of turmoil because of differing mandates for the different agencies and just poor communication. It was the turmoil of bald eagle management in Arizona in the early 1980s that led to the formation of the Management Committee. It gives us an opportunity to talk with each other 3 to 4 times a year in a formal meeting and to divide up the many responsibilities that we all need to discharge in order to protect the bald eagle. I see us on really a rise to a whole new plateau. We are finding out more about the birds. We're working together very well. We're sharing the information, making sure that the information is put to good use. And all of that, to me, presents a very bright future for the bald eagle in Arizona. We have expanded our efforts to respond to the biology of the bird, not just the political units that we work within. So as far as the bald eagle is concerned in the Southwest, it's looking very good. We're learning how to manage it, and we're learning how to manage ourselves as we go about that. And those two things go hand in hand.
The nest watchers are recruited from throughout the United States each year. Coming from a wide variety of backgrounds, they range from college students to retirees. Early in February, they meet in Phoenix for an all-day orientation and training meeting. Here, the nest watchers will choose a partner and receive their nest watch site locations. After an informal party, the traditional burnt weenie roast, nest watch teams will be sent into the field for about 5 months. They will work 10-day shifts, 4 of which are grueling dawn to dusk observation days. During their shifts, they'll collect detailed information on the eagles and the environment, as well as helping to protect the birds from any disturbances. Tom Gatz, a committee member from the Bureau of Reclamation, explains what motivates a nest watcher.
It's a real commitment on the part of the nest watchers. The money they get is really for subsistence, and they don't make much profit, if any, on it. And it's more of an effort of love rather than of any particular financial gain, I think, that motivates the average nest watcher.
I'm here because I like to work in the outdoors. I'm interested in wildlife. Studying bald eagles is a way to do that. It's a way to earn enough money to survive and at the same time live in a really pretty place, get to see some pretty animals, get to live in a wild area, see sights that a lot of people don't see.
And I'd never seen a bald eagle before. I thought seeing him nest would be really neat. I thought the desert was total sand and nothingness, but there's a lot of wildlife and a lot of neat plants around.
I think if you ever stop learning, you might as well hang it up. It's a learning experience. In a beautiful spot like this, just enjoying the habitat. And it's not only the eagle. As you know, we just literally thousands of waterfowl, water birds, raptors, mammals. You're living with them. I mean, this is the whole thing. This is the ultimate when you talk about back to nature.
I'm leaving behind telephones and televisions and traffic, which I don't mind at all.
In a minute here, we'll get it going.
You delegate responsibilities.
Well, Greg said he'd do the chicken because he was going to do chicken at the minute.
Oh, okay. You keep an eye on the chicken, make sure it doesn't burn up.
First time I saw a bald eagle, I was so taken. It was fantastic. And now you get to see him every day, and you wake up and you're with him all day. And you get to see everything they do. You get to see him hunt, you get to see him feed, you get to see him copulate, you get to get to see them chase off other birds. You know, you're living right with the bird, and you're seeing something that nobody else is seeing. This is an opportunity of a lifetime to come out here and see these kind of things happen.
All right, I'm gonna watch birds for a few minutes. Come in.
Early in the season, it's pretty slow for these nest watchers. There's not too much going on. Once the birds go down on the egg, there's just incubation basically. One or the other of the pair will sit tight. There's no prey deliveries to the nest, and not very much activity by the adults. Once the chicks are hatched and there's prey deliveries to the nest site, then the activity increases, and the nest watchers can do things like try and identify the types of prey that are delivered to the nest and that the chicks are feeding on, the number of prey deliveries in a day, the time of day that the deliveries are made. All this is very significant, and over the season, the nest watchers will discover that there's usually a pattern to it all.
Oh, eagle just left the nest. Okay, 10 o'clock. Ooh, there's something in the water there.
They sometimes will make a strike, and in several instances, the fish, large carp, which they make a couple of attempts to get airborne with the thing, and it's obviously too heavy, they'll leave it there, and they may go back and feed off that carcass for 4 to 5 days.
The eggs take, on the average, 35, 36 days to incubate before they hatch. In the approximately 3 months that the young are growing in the nest and the adults are bringing food to them, the young they're growing feathers. They're growing bigger in size. Their muscles are getting stronger. Towards the end of the time, the young do some flapping. They try to lift themselves with their wings into the air off the nest in not really a flight situation, but just gaining strength.
These guys are right at 85 days.
Oh, are they 85 days?
Well, yesterday, today, or tomorrow would be 85 days because we're not sure the exact day that they hatched. But we figured it was Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, and 84, 85 days.
Only if you didn't have a real premature fledgling on your hands. How many prey deliveries you guys have been getting every day?
In general, over the last month or so, it's usually been 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening. And then throughout most of the day, they've all been just real tranquil and sitting out the sun and not moving much. The adults have just stayed in shade most of the day. The last few days, as it's been cooler, it seems like the prey deliveries have picked up. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, here comes an adult with some food now.
Yeah.
Okay, now the adult's going down to him. There he goes. Look at that. Isn't that great?
These 2 chicks at the cliff nest site are ready to fledge, but the female chick has had a bit of trouble gaining the confidence to fly.
At this point, it's a matter of jumping off the edge where it's about 150 feet down, and she's spent 3 or 4 hours looking over the edge this morning, and decided not to go.
She couldn't do it. She's been walking.
She's real hesitant right now.
She walks.
She's a very good walker, and she has a large walking area now, being up on that area that she's at. We've tried to teach them everything we know, first off, and we do morning calisthenics, and they've seen through that they can really move those wings and get some good elevation. They are strong enough to fly.
No eagles are any worse than another eagle.
Right.
You're just as good as the next eagle.
As the next eagle. That's pretty much our motto with all the young eagles.
After these chicks fledge, they'll spend anywhere from 10 days to 45 days within their natal nest area. And during this time, they're pretty much primarily or 100% dependent on carrion or continue to be fed by the adults. And just before he leaves the nest, he'll be the same size as his parents, only he'll be dark. He'll look a lot like a golden eagle. His underwing coverts will be mottled with white. He'll have a lot of mottling. And he'll basically look like that until he reaches sexual maturity at approximately 5 years of age. And at that point, that's when he'll obtain his white head and white tail plumage that we're all familiar with.
The variety of nest watch camps are as different as the nest watchers themselves. Many camp out in tents. Others have the luxury of a camp trailer. And some simply use their vehicles as an all-around shelter and living area. Seasoned camping veterans, as well as newcomers, are eager to share tips on how to deal with living outdoors and watching the birds.
The trick is to do this fast enough so you don't get any insects.
What are you making?
Well, I got a can of beans, a can of corn, a can of mushroom soup. It doesn't have a name. It's just like
goulash, huh?
Yeah.
Or something.
A little bit of butter. Maybe I'll put some green chilies in it. When I get done, what I don't eat, I'll put in plastic bags and Ziploc baggies, and then I'll take them up to the OP with me and let them heat up in the sun on a dark rock, and they get nice warmed. I got maybe too many beans in there, but the cream of mushroom soup should pretty well mixes almost anything together.
Bring a grapefruit alive. It takes about an hour to peel it. But first you play with it. You know, you hacky sack it around, play catch with it, juggle it. Then you peel it, and then you pick it apart, slice by slice, and you eat it. It takes about a good hour.
If you sit down and try to look at the nest 12 hours a day on a dawn to dusk or 14, you're going to go crazy. You're not going to be able to get through this. You got to find some way to make it through. If you record every single time they go to the bathroom, it's not going to work. You got to supplement your observation. Plus, by looking at scope all that time, you're going to have a big giant eyeball. And you're going to have to wear glasses in a month. So you try to spread things out and still do a good job, though.
One of the interesting things that we're looking at, and we plan to be looking at, is what food is brought to the nest. In most places, the diet of the bald eagle consists mostly of fish. Here it seems to be about 80% fish and 20% reptiles, mammals. At the site that we have here, we have a great opportunity to actually see every prey item that's delivered to the nest and determine if that's true at this nest, if 80% is fish and 20% otherwise, and what species of fish. We might be able to help out eagles by, since some of these rivers and lakes are stocked anyway, by stocking them with species of fish that are wanted both by fishermen and by the eagles. That might benefit both man and eagles.
And I heard something scream, and I didn't know what it was at first, but I heard this thing screaming, and this eagle had a hold of it, flew back to a perch by the nest, and sat on the perch with this thing. It screamed for about 5 minutes and finally died. And then the eagle just tore into it, started pulling, fur was flying everywhere, tore into it, ate the whole thing, tail and all. It was a ringtail. It was like a picture right out of the book.
I think desert bald eagles take more mammals than other kinds of bald eagles do.
It's a lot of fun being here because you get to know the eagles. Probably going to take me as long to get to know the eagle as it would probably a human being.
One thing that's interesting about the birds that I've noticed from all other birds is that the eagles are all different. There's no way I could categorize or group a whole bunch of eagles together and say, this is the way they behave. Each of them are all real individual in their behavior. And the more and more I learn about them, the more and more you can't generalize. Last night, we observed a prey delivery by the female adult bald eagle. And the female popped in with a fish, dropped it off, and perched on a perch shortly right in front of the nest. So the female then, adult, left, and the aggressive bald eaglet, there's two of them, the more aggressive of the two, ate the fish while the other one sat there and watched. The one didn't get any food, the other one got all of it.
It is a paternalistic thing. You're concerned about them, you're concerned about their welfare, you're concerned about disturbances. You couldn't help but be, because with constant observation, it's almost like you're living in the nest. I mean, with a 40-power scope, and particularly on these dawn to dusk days, when you're observing every move the birds make, you do develop a close feeling.
I'd say probably 4 out of 7 days of the week we're hearing gunshots all day long. The eagles, on the most part, are oblivious to it. They seem to have adapted fairly well, maybe better than us, to the amount of gunshots that we've heard. We've heard automatic weapons down there, and it's been pretty unsettling.
We've seen too many aircraft violations. Sometimes it's a war story out there.
A sonic boom hits without warning.
Now that bird definitely reacted.
We found out that it's cumulative. It's a stress on them all the time, and it adds up year after year, until pretty soon they aren't breeding anymore, or they move to a different site. And sure, they might act a lot of times like it's not bothering them in the areas where there's a lot of disturbance, but it's bothering them.
Disturbances to eagles come in many ways. Humans, usually without even realizing it, cause the most problems. With enough disturbances, the eagles tend to leave an area. Dams, which were originally built for farm irrigation purposes, are being converted to accommodate growing municipal water use. More demand for water means construction conflicts and potential water problems. By monitoring these situations, biologists and nest watchers are able to intercede in favor of the eagles. In some cases, this means closing off the breeding areas during the nesting season. Rich Qualley, U.S. Forest Service.
The closure is posted on all its boundaries with either no hiking signs, or it'll just have a lettered sign that says closed to all public entry without permit, and some of them say endangered species area. If someone enters the area and a law enforcement officer is there, the person can be cited into a federal magistrate's court. The fine for entering a closure, if you go to a magistrate, is not more than $500 fine or 6 months in prison. Most people, when they're confronted with that, don't bother to enter the closure. But on some of these high recreation days, when people want to get in there and fish in their favorite swim or fishing hole, they go in anyway. The nest watchers don't have the authority to write citations. What they have the authority to do is go in and tell people that they have to leave. And if they don't, then they'll try to get a hold of somebody that can write a ticket.
I really wish that I could talk to somebody that, or I could catch somebody that came through the fence just to hear their story on, you know, why they would want to vandalize the fence here.
The contact I've had with people, with boaters, with general public, talking to them about the eagles, what they can do to help is very important. I think the only way we're ever really going to help any of our wildlife is to educate the general public, make them interested, make them aware of it, or we don't stand a chance in really protecting it.
The people that we can talk to are not the problem. It's the people that we can't reach. The people that are out there on the lake.
One of the great values of the Nest Watch program is one of educating the public in the field. They're like a mini outdoor classroom. They get to talk to the experts, they get to see the bald eagle, and they get to take a little bit of literature home to share with somebody else. I think that providing an opportunity like that, I think is grand, and I think it's pretty unique. And I think if you looked around the country, you wouldn't see it in too many other places. I think an excellent example of how effective the Nest Watch program is, in 1984, when we only fledged 15 young, the Nest Watch program was directly or indirectly responsible for saving 9 eaglets that year. In one case, they actually interceded and stopped the bulldozer from knocking over a tree nest that had 3 chicks in it that were only 2 weeks from fledging. Now, when you consider that those 9 chicks represented approximately 60% of the production that year, that's a significant number when you're talking about a small endangered population like the one we have here in Arizona. Bald eagles are very, very good barometers of the environmental quality. They're excellent indicators as to the quality of our environment and our total environment. If our environment isn't good for eagles, then it isn't good for us.
As you start to lose animal species, your environment in general becomes more impoverished. It's less stimulating. And I would very much like the people that live after my lifetime to have just as a rich and stimulating environment as I've had the opportunity to live in.
It's hard to find something you can count on a lot of times these days, I think. A continuity. Eagles give that to me, personally. They're always there. They're always doing their thing. You come back after a year, they're just steadfast and just something I can count on. I want to be part of helping keep them there so that other people can count on them too.
It's just amazing how we can work with these birds and they do respond if we just give them a chance.